All right, y'all. So we're gonna start out by saying, "Call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai." Right, that's all praises be unto Yahweh in the name of His Son Yahweh Shai. I am Officer Haya L out of San Antonio for the Masada, and we're gonna be giving a lesson tonight. Right, I know a lot of us we talk about, dominating the heathen, having rulership. But the one thing that folks have to understand is that we are about to be kings and gods on this earth. And I've mentioned this a number of times to the brothers, but I think it's about time that we touched on it in a lesson because we always focus on how much pain we're going to inflict on our enemies. But just like, hey, can y'all mute your mics?
Con.
A lot. But we focus on how we're going to afflict our enemies. But the things that we don't point out is once our rulership is established, everyone's going to be righteous, more or less. So that means that the affliction has to end. So let's get into this lesson today. Brother Kanayak, can you get me 1 Corinthians 2 and 6 through 10? Oh, your mic is muted, brother.
Salaki.
Are you good?
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 6. It says, "Howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the world unto our glory, which none of the princes of this world knew, for had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory."
1 second. So we speak the wisdom of the scriptures. And anybody who's done any time in this truth, there's layers to this, right? There are things that are easy to understand, and there are things that require a lot of study and some time to be spent in order to properly digest it. When we speak this wisdom, we have to understand we're talking to the common man, and then we're talking to the awakened, those in the truth.
Hey, Salakia, bro. I don't mean to cut you off. I think it could be just on my side, but I think your camera froze up.
Can you see me waving my hand?
No.
No? All right, hold on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good, Ken. Let me see.
Yeah, it's a loading screen.
And hold up. Is it still sharing my other screen? No, it ain't. All right. Can y'all see that?
Con, we can see that, yeah.
Con.
I just don't see you moving in your bubble, but we can see that for sure.
That's cool. As long as you can see the screen I'm sharing, let me bring this up. Yeah, because I was reading it on my Bible. So lock in. But with us, basically rising into the position of rulership, we have to understand the wisdom that we're teaching to those who are awakened. We have to escort them into sovereignty, into a rulership mindset, right? It's one thing to be an awakened prince, but it's another thing to be a seasoned king. And to obtain that experience, we don't have the position of rulership yet, but we do have the guidebook to rulership, right? So this wisdom that we're speaking openly to the world, those who understand it, we have to escort them from ignorance into nobility, into sovereignty, right? I'm gonna look up the word sovereignty, right? Because it's very important to know what these words mean. Sovereignty, supremacy of authority or rule as exercised by a sovereign or a sovereign state. Royal rank, authority or power, complete independence and self-government. So that's what we're about to obtain as a people, right? And going into the kingdom, we need to understand how to properly think and how to address those who were once enemies who will then be your servants. Brother, can you keep going?
Con. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and starting at verse 8. It says, "Which none of the princes of this world knew, for had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, I have not seen nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man, the things which God had prepared for them that love him." But God has
No,
revealed this.
That's it.
Nah.
So we're actually about to receive the greatest promotion that any group of people have ever received on the planet. You cannot be a nigga and enter into the kingdom, right? But you also cannot be a nigga and properly rule. So it's one thing when we're preaching the word to preach judgment upon the heathen. But one of the things that we have to understand is we do have some willing heathen out there who are willing to bow, willing to kiss some boots, and they already in the mindset of, hey, when y'all come into rulership, I'm gonna hit the ground running. To those people, you need to be ready to teach them. Brother, can you turn with me to Matthew 13 and 13 through 18?
Con, I got a precept to add on to your point too whenever you're ready for it.
Con, go ahead and grab it.
God, like this just to go into your point, like how you said we got to make sure we're proper teachers, right? This is Wisdom of Solomon 6. I'm gonna start at verse 1, then I'm gonna just jump to the point. It says, "Hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. Learn, ye that be judges of the ends of the earth." It says, "Give ear, ye that rule the people, and glory in the multitude of the nations." Right? It's going to verse 4. It says, "Because being ministers of his kingdom, ye have not judged aright, nor kept the law, nor walked in after the counsel of God. Horribly and speedily shall he come upon you, for a sharp judgment, shall be to them that be in high places." So it kind of just go to your point of us being in this exalted estate and having this knowledge and wisdom. We have to make sure that we're guiding our brothers and our sisters in a right estate well, because if not, that judgment's coming up on us 10 times harder.
Con. And that's one of the things that will guide your hand when it comes to doling out mercy, right? Some of the time, your servants in the kingdom are going to do things worthy of reproach, worthy of punishment, and in some cases, even worthy of death. But when we look throughout the Bible, we see how the Most High God dealt with us. We have to understand we are servants unto the Most High God. I plan on bringing this out later, but I'm going to bring it out now. Brother, can you get me Leviticus 25 and 55 in the NIV?
And NIV, yeah, give me 1 second. Now, this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25 and verse 55 in the NIV. "For the Israelites belong to me as servants. They are my servants, whom I brought out of Egypt. I am the Lord your God."
Right. So we are the Most High God servants, right? The children of Israel. We are God's literal slaves, right? And the Most High God deals with us very gently and very kindly. Because to be quite frank, the Most High God could have done away with his people 25 times over, right? And I just say 25 because really it's the chapter we're in. The Most High God could have killed us numerous times, but he exercised mercy on us, right? Brother, can you go with me? Man, I should be sticking to my lesson, but can you go with me to Sirach 18 real quick?
KJV or another translation?
Nah, KJV works. And get me verses. Yeah, get me verses 10 through 11.
God, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 18 and verse 10. "As a drop of water unto the sea, and a gravel stone in comparison of the sand, so are 1,000 years to the days of eternity. Therefore is Yahweh patient with them, and pour forth his mercy upon them. He saw and perceived their end to be evil. Therefore he multiplied his compassion." That's cold.
So the Most High God, knowing his creature or his creation, he already knew mercy has to be part of this formula. Because if they don't have a leeway or a buffer zone, they're going to be doing shit that's worthy of being destroyed left and right. We as a nation have literally gone off and served other gods. Last time I checked, the penalty for serving another god is death. So our nation should have been done away with, but the Most High God, knowing his children, he multiplied his mercy upon us. We have to understand our servants in the kingdom are going to be unto children unto us, right? So if we're going to have extended lifespans and we're going to translate instead of die, that means that your perception of time is going to be far more comprehensive and circumspective than your servants. A man who's 100 years old is going to be like talking to a 5-year-old. So when you're dealing with children, you multiply your patience and your mercy because you know they need it, right? So let's get into this lesson a little bit more, and we're going to see examples of that mercy, and we're going to see the wisdom of why you extend that mercy as well. Brother, can you give me that Matthew 13 and 13 through 18?
I got you. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 13. You want me to wait till you get there on the computer?
No, you good.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 13.
Hey, Salaki, my bad. Yakima in the back. He said, "Can you beam him up?"
I got you. The one.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 13. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Esaias, which said, by hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. Salakia. And their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them.
1 second. So one of the things that we often see when we're dealing with our own people is the inability of our people to cognate, or in other words, like intellectually understand what we're saying and to put it into practice, right? They can't see it. But the same thing goes for the heathen. They cannot see us ruling on this earth. They also can't see us being fair. And it's not because we're not a fair and patient people, but it's because their hearts have waxed gross, your heart being your mind, right? So the heathen, just as we go off, the heathen go off as well, because they are meant to be our servants. We were directed in Leviticus 25 to take slaves and servants of the surrounding nations, right? So if that's what our lot is, then they need to understand what's going on as well from their position or their post. Everyone's heard their parents say, stay in a child's place. Well, your servant is going to have their place in your house. And if that's the case, then they need to understand what's going on as well, not just you. All right. Keep going, brother.
I got a precept for you too, Al, whenever you get done with that.
Come.
Verse 15. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower.
So just that seed is sown in the minds and hearts of our people, we are to sow seeds in the hearts of all people who hear the word, whether they're receiving their judgment as a Gentile, a natural-born Gentile, or they're receiving their judgment as an Israelite. Being a watchman and a teacher of Israel is a very heavy position, because we are literally the Most High God's mouthpiece, and we are to cry among the heathen and to give judgments among the nations. So we need to understand that it's not just our people who need to understand these things and be able to follow our logic, right? I'm not saying you need to give breakdowns to the heathen, but they need to understand that in the kingdom they will serve. But if they serve admirably, then they'll be commended. There's nothing wrong with praising a righteous servant. We'll go ahead and get your precept, brother.
You want to keep moving along? Because it don't really hit on that necessary point. It just go to say what you said about as far as like our people, they don't listen. Like they kind of hear what we saying, but they can't apply it. That's what this point is. So if you want that, I give it for you. But if not, we can keep going with your lesson, bro.
We can keep going, but just drop the book, chapter, and verse.
It's Ezekiel 33 and 30 through 33.
Come. So yeah, y'all read that because it's going to reinforce the point that our people often, despite us, trying to convey the word to them and remixing it, 10 different ways, it's just they can't see it and they can't hear it because the Most High God has basically closed off their understanding. Right? But brother, can you grab me 1 Peter 2 and 9 through 12 in the ESV?
ESV.
Mm-hmm.
This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2 and verse 9 in the ESV. For a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, so a people for his own possession, that ye may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul.
Hold on right there. So, yes, we are that royal priesthood. We are that chosen race. The people who were once called exiles. We are called everything but a child of God. But now we are slowly coming into our seat of power where we will be acknowledged as God's true children.
God.
But notice in verse 11, it tells us to abstain from basically the actions of the flesh, sinful behavior. Now, in the time of the kingdom, this is going to be the advice that you give your servants. Abstain from sin, because guess what? You're going to be punished for it. They're going to have to live up to the same standard that you live up to right now. So they're going to have to be aware of what's going on. And guess what? That's going to affect them on the job, whether their job is picking cotton, warming up your bed, cooking your food, whatever you got in your mind for your servants, right? But go ahead and read 12 for me, brother.
That's a lot. Verse 12. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation.
So the heathen are going to have their reputation not just amongst themselves, but amongst you. It might not be that individual. It might be, say you somehow have Achior the Ammonite, right? He's your slave, and his entire family serves you without question. They go above and beyond. You're going to be singing the praise of your servant to your brother when they come by. Hey, my servant Achior, man, he be on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I'll tell my, servants to, construct something, or I have an idea. And not only is he all ears, but he's all labor and work too. So, I tell my servants what to do, and I come back and I see the fruit of their labor. And you know what? I'm pleased by it. This is going to be that honorable reputation that's going to be amongst the other Gentiles for your slaves. Again, these are written for our learning, right? The scriptures that we're reading. But you need to understand, it's not just for your learning here in captivity. It's going to be for your learning in terms of your conduct in the kingdom of heaven. And you're going to have to pay this forward, right? But brother, can you get me 1 Corinthians 15 and 20 through 25?
God.
Because Yahushua is going to put down all authorities on the planet. All kingdoms are going to fall under the sway of the Israelites. So that's going to magnify the nature of his kingdom, right? Because as a king is, so are the officers and the governors and the servants and the lowly under them, right? But go ahead and get it, brother.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 20. But now in Christ risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept, For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order, Christ the first fruits, afterward they that are Christ at his coming. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall put down all the rule and authority and all power. For he must reign till he have put all his enemies under his feet.
So when you put something under your feet in a biblical sense, that means to put it under your authority or your rulership. And we're seeing that Yahushua is not only going to have rulership over the Israelites, he's going to have rulership over all nations on the planet. And once his rulership is established, he's going to deliver that up to the Most High. So it's going to be governed directly by the edicts and the commandments of the Most High. No one in the kingdom is going to be eating pork, at least without a penalty, right? Because they say you come back to your, if you got a plantation, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna build me a plantation on the side of my little estate. So I just want to reminisce a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But say one of your heathen is eating some pork and you catch them. Hey, man, they're going to have to pay the penalty for that. But at the same time, though, it's going to be in accordance with the rules and the laws of the Bible. So we're going to have to start coming to the understanding of what it means to rule over those who are seeking to you for knowledge. You're going to have your heathen are going to talk about you the same way the heathen talked about John the Baptist. And that will be the least of us. So you have to understand you have a heavy obligation on your shoulders when it comes to being part of the authority in Yahushua's kingdom, the body of Yahushua, right? But brother, can you get me Zechariah 8 and 22 through 23?
This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 8 and verse 22. It says, yeah, many people and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem and pray before the Lord. Thus saith Yahweh Tazabah, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you.
So it's like I said, the heathen are going to depend on you. The same way if you have children, if your kids, especially when they're in their young years, when they look to you for direction and guidance, they look up at you like, yo, I'm not moving till you say something. That's how these heathen are going to look to the Israelites. When it comes to, how do I keep the Feast of Tabernacles? You're going to have to be able to give an account for that. And guess what? You're going to have God's laws on your inward part. You're going to already be equipped. But how you treat your servants, that's going to reflect on their productivity because they're going to seek you out. And if the first inclination that you have because your servants are even near you is to abuse your servants, I got news for you. They're not going to be very productive, right? For those of you brothers who's ever been on a job with a manager that you hate, a manager that's always going around sticking his nose in people's business, the productivity is really low because everybody is just trying to do enough to not get noticed by the manager. But when you have, a management staff where you get along with them, they have an understanding with their workers and they look out for those that, do their work and go above and beyond, man, productivity is off the charts. More times than not, you're redefining your metrics every other quarter. You know what I'm saying? You have low attrition. You're able to keep employees and they're able to master their craft as they put time in on the job. Well, the same thing is going to be expected of your servants in the kingdom of heaven. If they're already being righteous and they're doing their job, if they make a mistake, man, mercy is going to be the name of the game. You know what I'm saying? But brother, can you go ahead and get me... Actually, let's go back to verse 3 real quick in Zechariah 8.
Say that one more time, Salaki.
Can you go up to verse 3 in Zechariah 8?
Come on. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 8 and verse 3. Thus say Yahweh, I am returned unto Zion and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, and the mountain of Yahweh Tazabah, the holy mountain. Thus
So
saith,
no, that's it. So with the Most High God returning to his people and dwelling with us, putting his laws in our inward parts, being right there to answer prayers as we make them, it basically accentuates verse 23 all the more, because the heathen are going to hear of your God and know that he's with you. So if you're going to be part of the city of Jerusalem, known as the city of truth, then guess what? Their hope to get information and wisdom from you is going to be honored, because they heard God was with you and they were right. And you're going to convey God's presence through his wisdom, which you're going to give to your servants. And you'll condescend to a level that they can understand. Because as you spend more time in this truth, you know that as the wisdom that you learned when you first came into the truth, you don't understand it the same way that you understand it now.
God.
It's going to be the same way after 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 10,000 years. The wisdom of the Most High God is so manifold that you can't even search out all the knowledge that's therein. There's so much wisdom in the Bible that you could spend an eternity just extrapolating all that knowledge. But yet in the kingdom, the heathen need a version of it, and you're going to be willing to give it to them, right? Brother, can you turn with me to 2 Thessalonians 1 and 6? And then we're going to grab Sirach 42 and 1 through 5, right? Because with the knowledge that we will rule and the heathen must serve, what are we to do with the heathen that are already righteous?
You said Sirach 41, correct?
42 and 1 through
42.
5. Yes, sir.
This is the book of 2 Thessalonians, chapter 1 and verse 6. Seeing it is a righteous thing with Yahweh to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you.
So that's plain. No, that's playing up on tables, right? So it's a righteous thing with the Most High God to trouble those that trouble you. So what if you got a servant who constantly trying to run away? He constantly ignoring his duties. He's constantly giving you lip when you talk to him, looking crazy, acting crazy. Well, then it's going to be a hard time for him in the kingdom of heaven. You're going to see Revelations 2 and 26 actualized, right?
Right.
But, brother, can you read? Yeah, give me that Sirach real quick.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 42 and verse 1. Of these things be not thou ashamed, and accept no person to sin thereby. Of the law of the Most High, and his covenant, and of judgment to justify the ungodly, of reckoning with thy partners and travelers, or of the gift of the heritage of friends, of exactness of balance and weights, or of getting much or little, and of merchants indifferent selling, of much correction of children, and to make the side of an evil servant to bleed.
So this is a list of things that the Most High God finds acceptable, right? So if you got a wicked servant and you beat him to the point where he laying on the floor bloody and bruised, the Most High God, he smiles favorably upon that.
Right.
So I know we talk about, like, man, in the kingdom, I'm gonna have that rod of iron. I'm gonna be going in on these heathen. We say that, but that's only because there's a lot of wickedness to correct. But in the kingdom, once everything is established, man, your servants aren't going to be stepping out of line. Because it's one thing to have somebody over you and you see their rulership is trash. But it's another thing to have somebody over you and you see their rulership is the way. And that's something that we've never seen on this planet, because we're the ones who are supposed to be ruling. The other nations are not suited for rulership. The Israelites are. And the only reason why we're suited for rulership is because we have this wisdom that the Most High God gave us through his prophets. But with that wisdom, the heathen are going to be able to bear witness to a righteous kingdom, and they will prefer it. Can you imagine some of these heathen and these like, say in Singapore, you're a poor Singaporean man and you have a daughter that has to walk a strip every day when she's in danger. Or in India, when you got Elam roaming around in packs, gang assaulting people. I don't know if y'all know about that in Persia, right? The Persian nations, they have a huge issue with that. But in the kingdom, that won't be so. And they're going to look to us to correct that behavior. And guess what? The wicked servants are going to be expatiated, right? Let's get that word. I know I can't spell, but definition. Expatiated. Yeah, that's good. Expatiate. No, that's not it. Where is that?
Hey, Salakia, real quick. You think I can get somebody to relieve me real quick? I gotta hit this restaurant.
Yeah. Go for it. Can somebody else read?
I got you.
Come on, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find this word. So the heathen are going to be recorded in the kingdom, right? So all the things that they do, you're going to write about them. You're going to keep a record of them, right? It's not all about punishment, and it's not all about reward. In the kingdom, a righteous servant is literally going to be recorded. You're going to write about them, right, in detail. Say you got an Elamite, you like the way he makes Slurpees. Guess what? He gonna be on a roster somewhere, and you're gonna have next to his name, makes my damn Slurpee the way I like it. Say you like raspberry and blueberry. He get it right every time, right? You're gonna chronicle their actions, right? Just as your actions are recorded as an Israelite, right? But we see here in Sirach 42 that, again, the Most High God, he's all for the punishment of the wicked, right? Hey, brother, can you grab me, let me see, get me Judith 6 and 10, and then we're going to skip to verse 14, and then I'll give you more after that.
So like you said, can you hear me? Because sometimes my headphones be tripping.
No, you good. Judith chapter 6.
Six and
So
10.
what we have here in Judith, basically Judith 5, you have an Ammonite named Achior, and he's gone to Holofernes, the commander of Nebuchadnezzar's forces, and he's giving him the lowdown on who the Israelites are. And in short, after basically reading off our resume on how our God liberated us from Egypt and, drowned Pharaoh and his armies, he lets the armies of Nebuchadnezzar know, like, hey, man, if their God is with them, we can't mess with these people. But if they be in sin and their God has turned his face from them, then they're all ours. Holofernes, he takes great issue with that, and he attempts to bind Achior and deliver him to the Israelites, thinking that we would kill him. Let's see how it goes down. Brother, if you can read it.
So like you said, verse
5, right?
Verse 10.
Okay, so like this
This is Judith chapter 6 and verse 10. Then Holofernes commanded his servants that waited in his tent to take Achior and bring him to Bethulia.
Yes.
And deliver him
into the hands of the children of Israel.
Now let's go to 14.
Verse 14.
But the Israelites descended from their city and came into him and loosed him up and brought him to Bethulia and presented him to the governors of the city.
So we already see our people are naturally inclined to be merciful. And in this case, it was to our benefit to be merciful to him because he gave us a lot of information, right? Can you read me verses 17 through 20?
Verse 17.
And he answered and declared it to them the words of the council of Holofernes, and all the words that he had spoken in the midst of the prince of Assur. and whatsoever Holofernes had spoken proudly against the house of Israel. Then the people fell down and worshipped God and cried unto God, saying, O Lord, God of heaven, behold their pride, and pity the low estate of our nation, and look upon the face of those that are sanctified unto thee this day. Then they comforted Achior and praised him greatly.
So after Achior gave us the lowdown on what the enemy was doing, we didn't turn around and kill him. We commended him for doing that great service to us and providing us information during a time of war. So Achior would later go on to get circumcised and keep our ways. He willingly subjected himself unto the children of Israel because he saw that our God was with us. Right? We're not going to read all of it, but you can read it for yourself. But you can see that we are already prone to being fair and extending mercy when we can. We are not a bloodthirsty people. So in our zeal, sometimes I think we get caught up in saying how bad we're going to treat the heathen in the kingdom. But just remember to temper your anger, brothers, because there's going to come a time where they willingly serve, and you will willingly commend them for their service, right? But Kadar, can you give me Isaiah? Actually, give me Proverbs 11:1, and then Isaiah 5:20.
So 11:1. Isaiah 5:20. This is Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 1. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight.
So the Most High God expects us to reward good for good and evil for evil. Evil just means bad times, right? And as a matter of fact, I don't want to just say it. It's important that you prove it, because some of our people, when you say the word evil, they think of evil in the comic book fictional sense, when really it's just bad times, right? So bad, evil, are disagreeable, malignant, unpleasant, evil. So what you can see is it's not necessarily a moral, context with this word. Somebody can bring evil into your house and be a goodly person, right? How many times have we tried to help a brother who, although he's not sinful, he might not make the most expedient decisions, right? Say you trying to help a brother get out of debt. You give him $500, but the brother, he fucked money up. Let's be real about it, right? Although his heart might be in the right place, he's bringing about bad times. He's rewarding you evil for your good, right? But in the case of what we're reading about in relation to the heathen, right, a false balance to the Most High God would be you punishing your servant for doing a good job. That is not righteous with the Most High God. And that's something that you should definitely try to, again, kind of divorce yourself from that mindset and mind state while we're in this kingdom. Start learning how to think like a God. Start learning how to think from the perspective of these are my servants and I have to train them, right? Anybody who's prior military knows that after the military breaks you down, they build you back up. So it's not all, if you had to use the metaphor stick and carrot, it's not all stick. You got to give them a carrot every so often. And sometimes you got to make the carrot easy to get so that they have positive reinforcement for good behavior so that they can do greater acts of service. But brother, can you get me that Isaiah 5:20?
So hold on, I think somebody about to walk through there.
No, you cool.
Okay, my bad. I'm
my other wife's house, and the people is peopling outside. So this is Isaiah chapter 5 verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.
So if you're the type who has it in their mind that no matter what your servant does, you gonna just be on their helmet. Amen. The Most High God, he does not look favorably upon that, because that's not how he treats us. We have to understand, if the Most High God entrusts you with a servant, you are being entrusted to keep them, not just to send their spirit back to the spirit realm. That's not why God gave them to you. You're supposed to accomplish something. Can you, like, think of it like this? If you spent 500 years in the kingdom building up your estate, and Yahushua wanted to come to your estate and have a dinner with you, would you be proud of your environment? Because I'm gonna tell you, if you're constantly beating your servants in front of your guests, that's humiliating. A king who has to beat his servants in the presence of another king, that is a mortifying experience. And in the kingdom, you're going to be surrounded by kings and priests. So the more expedient you are with whipping your servants into shape, the more your estate is going to be recognized, not only for their ability to move beyond the corrective phase, but also the ability to impart wisdom and mercy to the servants. Because the goal is to get them into position so that they perform admirably, not perform in fear, right? A fearful servant makes for a terrible worker, right? And there's a proverb in this world, right? If you had a surgeon, would you want a surgeon with sure, steady hands? Or do you want a nervous servant who's looking over his shoulder, worried about punishment? Of course, you want a sure-handed surgeon so that they can do the best job possible. And that's going to be the same thing for your servants in the kingdom, right? But brother, can you get me, and we about to close out, we ain't going to make it long. Can you get me Isaiah 65, 17 through 23?
All right, I got you. This is Isaiah chapter 65 and verse, you said 17?
Yes, through 23.
Verse 17.
For, behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For, behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and hear her people a joy. And her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem and join my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There shall be no more thence of it's like an infant of days, or an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed.
Hold on right there. So what we see here is in the kingdom, the sinner, because you got to remember, the redeemed Israelites, we're not going to be sinning anymore. So when it comes to the children of the sinner being 100 years old and being accursed, that means they're going to be dying at about 100. Now, ain't that better than what they live out right now? Because most of the time people die before they hit 70. Right? So not only are the Israelites going to be rewarded, but once it's all said and done and everybody's in their position, even the heathen are going to be blessed. Right? But notice that we're going to be considered children all the way up until 100 years old. That's when we will no longer be called a child. And what happens when you become a man? You put away childish things. So for 100 years, you're not going to be held to the standard intellectually of an adult, because it's not going to be possible. There's too much to learn, too much to govern, too much wisdom to accrue, absorb, and acclimate to. But once you become a man in the kingdom, you're going to be so far beyond these heathen. After the first couple 100 years, it's not even going to be a contest. You will literally be a God walking among men that the heathen can just look at and go, yep, that's a God. And your reputation is going to precede you, right? So why should your reputation be one of oppression, one of cruelty? That is not the Most High God's way, right? But his ways are stern for correction. So you could be known as a righteous ruler amongst your servants, but yet you can still be known as being gracious, being patient, being forgiving, and long-suffering. All those different things that the Most High God is to us, you should be aiming to be the same to your servants. Brother, can you get me? Actually, keep going to 23.
Verse 21.
And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them.
Now, I want to pause here just for a second. Who's going to be doing all this work? If we're going to be in rulership, this is what your servants is going to be doing. You're not going to be running out there every time you see somebody lay a brick wrong and beat them upside the back. You're not going to be just oppressing your servants as they plant your crops. Because the thing that really guaranteed America's destruction was all the oppression. The fact that for every crop they grew, they soaked it in the blood of our ancestors. We're not going to replicate that same mistake in the kingdom. But keep going, brother.
They shall not
Build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands.
Hold on 1 second. So let's look this up. How long can a tree live? Now, I know this is a metaphor, but it's good to just look and see what the metaphor is based off of, right? So just based on a quick return from AI, it could be from a few decades to over 5,000 years. What's the oldest tree on Earth? The oldest tree on Earth ranges from about 4,900 years to about 5,500 years. And I'm sure there's trees in some areas that are even older. But the Most High God is already promising his children are going to live extended lifespans. Let's see how long these heathen are going to get to live. And then you'll be able to contrast the two. Keep going, brother.
Verse 23. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them.
And that's it, right? Really, what we needed was above. Let me reread it. Hold on 1 second. So again, in verse 20, where it talks about, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. That's talking about them dying, right? So you living 1,000, 2,000 years, who knows, right? But certainly at least an extended lifespan. It's going to be juxtaposed with somebody who's living nothing but 100 years. Your ability to see more than them. You're going to literally see not just them, you're going to see their children's 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 children. Can you imagine seeing their great to the 10th child, their great grandson, 10 generations down the road, and you tell that young man as he gets older, I know your ancestors, literally. I know you better than you know yourself. And that won't even be hyperbole. You know him better than he knows himself. And he has to serve you, and you have to teach him. Or you have to train the servants that will, disseminate that knowledge down the ranks of your estate. We are about to become literal gods on the earth. You have to think bigger, guys. It's not about just ruling with rigor and an iron fist. The earth has had enough of that, right? But not to say that people ain't going to be put back in line, right? I'm not saying that, salvation to the heathen. Don't get it twisted, right? I'm just saying in the kingdom of heaven, when we preach about it to our brethren, we have to let them know that it's incumbent upon us to extend wisdom and mercy to the heathen. And we can let them know that there's an opportunity for them to distinguish themselves before we enter into the kingdom. And they can see the worth, right, in coming before us in bowing, expressing their regret that their ancestors and their present day brethren abuse us so much and have abused us so much. They'll be willing to bow and willing to await their servitude if we can convey this information just a little better, right? But brother, can you give me 2nd Ezra 14 and 34 through 35? Because the wisdom of the scriptures, or through the wisdom of the scriptures, we know how death works. You die, your spirit returns unto the Father, and you receive your judgment. Right now, everybody is living on a more or less similar time frame of life. But in the kingdom, as I said before, with elongated lifespans, that judgment that they're going to receive and then come back and play out on the earth, you're going to start to understand the Most High God's thought process, right? His machinations when it comes to his judgments, when it comes to death, right? Go ahead and get it, brother.
This is
2nd Ezra chapter 14 and verse 34. Therefore, if so be that you will subdue your own understanding and reform your hearts, ye shall be kept alive, and after death ye shall obtain mercy.
for after death
Shall the judgment come, when we shall live again, and then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared.
Now, this is how the Most High God records our deeds and our judgments, right? It's an appraisal that happens from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. But how much more are you going to understand this when you see a servant come back through the regeneration over and over and over again? This is something that we are going to be able to start to see from God's perspective, not completely, but more inclusively, right? Can you imagine you see a servant that does something very unique in particular? They're really good with the harp. And you know, every 2 to 3 generations, for some reason, this Moabite servant, he produces a son that is just outstanding with the harp. You're going to get to understand that this is a judgment, that this servant is that talented, whether it be for your benefit or his own. It's the judgment of the Most High God that he be like this. And you can cultivate that talent when he comes through the regeneration. You're going to start learning the strengths and the weaknesses of your servants so you can properly utilize them. Again, the objective is to think like a god and a king and not like a mortal man who's worried about his own fate more than his people's. We have to start thinking like gods. Brother, can you get me Ecclesiastes 3 and 16 through 17?
Salakia.
this is
Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 16.
moreover,
I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there,
in the place
in the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. Verse 17, I said in mine heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every purpose and for every word.
Salakia, I'm grabbing another one over there. Boom. Right. So every servant, every action on the planet, I don't want to just relegate it to the people. Everything on this planet has a purpose. In the kingdom, there are going to be servants that are literally wicked so that you can correct them in such a way that they become better than they could ever have been otherwise. And the Most High God is going to ensure the proper, master or slave master, whatever you want to call them, is over them, so that when the time for correction arrives, you will be apt to do that corrective action. Right? There's a purpose for everything. So knowing that, and knowing that in the kingdom, it's going to be your responsibility to properly rule over your servants, just keep that in mind, right? Whether it be good or evil, there's a purpose for it. And if it be good, there's a proper reward and a judgment. And if it be evil, there's a proper reward and a judgment. And with God's laws on your inward part, you're going to know the difference. And you're going to know what to do, right? But in the meantime, we need to be searching these scriptures so that we can be aware of what we should be doing and how we should be ruling in the kingdom of men, right? Even though right now we don't technically have any authority, we do have the laws of God on our side and the wisdom therein that's in the Bible. And when we talk or when we preach on the streets, that is where we get to exercise our authority and power, right? And we have to be studied in this Bible so that we can judge righteous judgment. Again, think like kings, right? Brother, can you get me Ecclesiastes 3:22?
Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 22. Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better, that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him?
Now, this is talking to the Israelites, but again, apply it to your servants in the kingdom, right? When it says that a man should rejoice in his own works, right? Your servant should be proud of the work that he's done and his contribution to the kingdom of the Most High God, because he's serving the Most High God through you. And look, Solomon says that there's nothing better than a man that should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. Now, when it says that, for who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? Well, in the kingdom, it's not going to just be the Most High God keeping track of those things. It's going to be a more active imparting of that knowledge. It's going to come through you. You're going to be able to tell your servants, hey, man, your grandfather was much better than you. And that should not be so, considering that there's been more, progress made in this so-called science or labor or whatever I'm tasking you with. Your family has served longer and they've done this work more often than any other group. So you should be better than your father. You should be better than your grandfather. So you're going to literally be talking to your servants and letting them know, hey, man, this is where you stand in relation to your people. We are going to be so much more than just niggas in the eyes of the people of the world, the heathen. We are going to become the rule of standard that they measure themselves by. Yeah, it's one thing to read a book or to look up history, but can you imagine an eyewitness account able to tell you exactly where you're going off at? Because they saw the last 5 generations of your fathers and they know how to fix a problem that has been plaguing your family. That's where you are going to literally show them the error of their ways. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? That's going to be you. All right. But brother, can you get me 1 Corinthians 6 and 1 through 3 in the NIV? Let me bring that up here.
Corinthians chapter 6,
verse 1 in the
NIV. If any of you has a dispute with another, do you dare take it before the ungodly for judgment instead of before the Lord's people? Or do you not know that the Lord's people will judge the world? And if you're going to, it's like if you are to judge the world, are you not competent to judge trivial cases? Do you know that we will judge angels? How much more the things of this life? That's cold.
So in the kingdom, and like I said, we're going to be entrusted with judgment over these nations. We're going to rebuke many people, as it says in the book of Isaiah. See, again, this world is out of course because the correction that's supposed to come down from the Israelites to the rest of the nations has not been performed yet. But when Yahushua has established his kingdom, that's what we're going to be doing all the day long, properly ruling, properly exercising judgment. And your heathen are going to bring disputes before you. Can you imagine, Brother Kadar? You got a heathen who's been fighting in the field with another heathen about who's going to get more water when it's time for breaks. I don't know. And they come before you. Well, how would you arbitrate that matter? It's up to you. Maybe the man who needs more water is the man who's out in the heat all day, who's exerting more of his bodily force. Because if you have a house slave who's sitting down for his work, he doesn't need to be replenished by food and water as often as a slave that is engaging in laborious labor. So you could arbitrate from that perspective. Or you could just go, hey, man, you've been wicked, he's been righteous. So I'm going to break him up a little bit more than you. What is that? Is somebody playing music?
No, Salakia. That was me.
Nah, you cool. But, you know, we're going to be judging the earth. So it's very important that we understand how to judge righteous judgment, when to be stern, when to be flexible, right? Because judgment is going to be yours to exert upon your servants, albeit to the standard of the Most High God, but you are going to arbitrate some of these matters. And I'm going to tell you, here in this world now, we're already arbitrating a lot of these matters, albeit we don't want to admit that we are in control of some things. Some of the trends that we see out in the world today. For instance, all the women of the earth being rebellious and starting to hate their own physical countenance. Well, we know they're following after the women of Judah, right? The women of Judah hate their own hair, their own eyelashes, their own lips. They hate their whole countenance. And now you're seeing the women of all the nations have that same body dysmorphic type of belief about themselves. But if we were to correct ourselves according to the Bible, that trend in the heathen would not be so. They would be following a more honorable reputation from our people, right? That's just an example. But brother, we're going to go ahead and get ready to close out. Can you get me Ecclesiastes 4:16?
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4 and verse 16. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before. That have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of the spirit, or of spirit, Salah.
So there's not going to be an end to the people. The people are going to be born, they're going to die and be born again through their ancestors, right? Or their predecessors, I'll say that, right? And you're going to see the generations come and go as a more permanent fixture on the timetable of life on this planet. And as a result of being more permanent than the life around you, you're going to see the changing of the seasons more often. And with that comes more wisdom, right? More room for improvement, more room for finer governance. Again, the objective of the Bible is to train you how to be a God, capable of judging the smallest and the greatest matters that are put within your purview of judgment. What is a purview? Right? The extent or range of activity, function, power, or competence, scope, right? So your purview of judgment, whether it be great or small, is going to be one that is of a kingly designation, right? Because you're an Israelite, you were designated to be a king and an authority on this planet. And with that designation, your purview is going to be given to you, right? It's already set by the Most High God. But in the kingdom, Yahushua going to let you know where you fit. Whether you're a doorman or you're a governor of a province, who knows, right? The 12, apostles who sit under Yahushua, who knows what the extent of their authority is going to be, and downward from there, so on and so forth. But wherever you fit, you are going to have a domain that you exercise authority over, and that's where you're going to see the changing of the guard within your domain, and you're going to become all the better for it. Can you get me Isaiah 2? And can you read from 2 to 5? And we're going to close on that one.
This is Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 2. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Verse 5. O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord.
So what we're going to see in the kingdom is that all these heathen are going to look to the Israelites, right? For guidance, for wisdom, for the ways in which they are to serve the God of Jacob. They're going to come to his people to learn the law. And we are going to arbitrate. We're going to judge among the nations. We are going to teach them how to be peaceful, how to coexist, how to honor treaties, how to be honorable, right? Shit, we're going to have to demonstrate all those things. But the Bible is already letting you know that that is our lot. And with that being our lot, all the more we should walk in the light of the wisdom that the Most High God gave us, right? And like any good Christian pastor, I said that was the last one, and I was not telling the truth. Can you go to Barak 4 for me? And get me just verses 1 and 2, and that'll be it.
And this is
Barak chapter 4, start from the top. This is the book of the commandments of God, and the law that endureth forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die.
turn thee,
O Jacob, and take a hold of it. Walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. Give not thine honor
No,
to it.
that's it. Because in the kingdom, verse 3 is not going to really apply the same way it applies right now, right? But there's going to be wisdom that we accrue in the kingdom that we're not going to make privy to our servants. Like I said earlier in my lesson, a servant is going to stay in a servant's place. But we are going to walk in the presence of the light thereof, which is basically the wisdom of the Most High God. We're going to walk in that wisdom and be illuminated by it. And the other nations are going to see it, and they're going to seek after us so that they may do likewise, right? But y'all, I hope this lesson has been edifying. I hope it kind of highlighted the need for us to be a bit more comprehensive in understanding the knowledge that we need to seek after and accrue so that we can be better stewards on this planet, not just to nature and, you know, the animals, but to the other heathen, right? Although that we call them beasts of the field, metaphorically, they will be our servants. And like any good master, you are to be a good teacher of your servants so that they can do the job that you set for them. But y'all, we're going to go ahead and sign out saying, Call halal Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. That's all praises be unto Yahweh in the name of his son Yahweh Shai. Kwam Yasharala and Mawaf Lababal. All praises.
Kwam Yasharala, Mawaf Lababal.
Kwam Yasharala, Mawaf Lababal. Baal.
This nigga gonna say
Salakia.
Baal at the end. This nigga so wicked.
Oh wow.
Is it bro, like
Nah,
that? It be,
nah. But yeah. That's idolatry, my boy.
Am I off the stream? I don't know how to end